Om Gana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militang Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. Let us begin by focusing on our mission. In the corporate world, there's a saying, mission creep. Mission creep means that although there was one mission statement, some or other things veered off course. And that veering off course can be very subtle, gradual, therefore mission creep, just like something creeps along on the floor very slowly. In this way, in our life, we can lose sight of what is our real goal. When we read Sri Ishopanishad, Srila Prabhupada explains in one purport that the human form of life is one of heavy responsibilities. I wonder how many of us feel that special weight, that heavy weight, that this human body has a special purpose. We can look at the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And we're reminded, Labdha sadulabham idam bahu sambhavante manusham artadam anicham apiha dhiraha turnam yateta napatet anumrityu yavan nishreyasaya vishaya kalu sarvata syat. After many, many births and deaths, one achieves the rare human form of life, which, although temporary, affords one the opportunity to attain the highest perfection. Thus, a sober human being should quickly endeavor for the ultimate perfection of life, as long as his body, which is always subject to death, has not fallen down and died. After all, sense gratification is available even in the most abominable species of life, whereas Krishna consciousness is possible only for a human being. We want to avoid anything that impedes or, worse, destroys our spiritual life. We don't want to be victims of what Ishopanishad calls Atmaha. We don't want to be the destroyer of our spirit soul. You can't destroy the spirit soul, of course, but we can plunge ourselves into such darkness that it seems like the soul is killed. Our criticism of society today is not so much about the political arrangements, the economic arrangements. Our criticism is mainly focused on the obscuring, the obliterating, the covering over of what is the real human mission. That is our real criticism. Of course, you see the way things work, the way Maya works, is that if you forget your human mission, then all your material arrangements sooner or later fail. whether economic, political, environmental, psychological, all these arrangements, these attempts at adjustment fail by the arrangement of the illusory energy because we've forgotten what is the real mission of human life. So try to understand in this way. We're not directly fingering the culprit as economic, political, environmental. Although we know those problems are the result of a main problem, which is forgetting what is our mission, forgetting what is the purpose of the human form of life. I'm remembering one of my disciples asked me, Guru Maharaj, do you think this is the end of Western civilization? I thought, has there ever been Western civilization? I'd like it to begin. I think one true thing that Gandhi is said to have said when he was asked his opinion, what do you think? Gandhi was asked, what do you think about Western civilization? And his famous reply was, I think it would be a good idea. We don't want to ever forget that we have a body that brings heavy responsibilities. And it's so easy to forget that. Therefore, our main criticism of human society today is that it has constructed a way of life in which people march blindly into darkness, unaware of what their mission should be. That's our main complaint. I remember Srila Prabhupada saying once, it sounds like double talk. He said, we are not against the advancement and progress of human society, even though it's suicidal. Our point is that, again, what are we supposed to be doing as human beings? If we get so caught up in the endless complications, permutations, and perplexities of material existence and forget what is our actual mission, what is our priority, then we've made the greatest mistake. As stated in the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is no greater mistake you can make than to put something else as a higher priority than your spiritual advancement. We all have our responsibilities to our temporary body. We all have our responsibilities for living as simply as we can in this world of complexity. But we should always remember what's the purpose. We shouldn't get lost in all the complexities and perplexities. There'll always be perplexities. Sometimes devotees ask me, what about the conspiracy? And I say, yes, I'm a true believer 100% in the conspiracy. It's known as Maya. Everything else is fine print. Whether there is this economic scam or this political scam or that or the other, you can be sure that behind it all is the main conspirator, the illusory energy. And what are we going to do about that? Therefore, whether this situation or that situation, our spiritual life always has to be the foremost concern, because materially, you'll never get to the bottom of the intricacies of this world, the perplexities of this world. Again, That's why it's called Maya. You can't sort it out materially. But with our human body, which has given us the most weighty responsibility, we can cross over the ocean. What is that ocean? Bhava Sindhu, the ocean of becoming and unbecoming. This is our mission. No matter what ashram we're in, family or not, single or not, how are we going to cross over? There's another famous verse in the 11th canto. Nri deham ajam sulabam sudurlabam plavam sakopam gurukarna dharam maya nukulena nabasvateritam human bhavadhim natarit sa atmaha. Again, we find atmaha, just as in Ishopanishad, the killer of his or her own soul. Translation: the human body, which can award all benefit in life, is automatically obtained by the laws of nature, although it is a very rare achievement. This human body can be compared to a perfectly constructed boat, having the spiritual master as the captain and the instructions of the personality of Godhead as favorable winds impelling it on its course. Considering all these advantages, a human being who does not utilize his human life to cross the ocean of material existence must be considered the killer of his own soul. We're meant for crossing the ocean. And what about that ocean? You've heard me quote many times Shukadeva Goswami speaking to Bridget Maharaj. Alaya dosha niderajan asti heko mahangana kirtanadeva krishnasya mukta sangha param vijay. The age of Kali is an ocean of faults. You can't get to the end of it by counting the waves in the ocean. You want to convince yourself. You've heard me say before, just go to the ocean, which is, at least in New Zealand, no more than a few hours drive away in this direction or that direction. Go to the ocean, go to the beach, and start counting the waves. You would say, that's silly. That's so futile. You'll never get to the end of the number of waves crashing on the shore. Similarly, Shukadeva Goswami says, you'll never get to the end of the faults in Kali Yuga. You'll never sort it out. You try this way, there's perplexity. You try that way, there's perplexity. You have plan A, doesn't work. You try your plan B, doesn't work. Then plan D seems to work. But then 2 years later, plan D collapses. Then you're back to plan A. Meanwhile, the body is aging, breaking down. Sometimes we just don't know what to do, how best to proceed through this ocean of faults. We have this human body, which is the boat meant for crossing the ocean. It's perfectly constructed for that purpose. And we have the spiritual master as the captain of the ship, and we have the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the winds blowing. I guess in this example of Bhagavatam, you're talking about sailboats, not petrol fueled boats or whatever. So therefore, the winds are very important when you have sails. And those winds are the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there's the boat, there's the captain, and there are the winds. Whenever we're perplexed by the complexities of this world, just as Arjuna was in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, we should remember the boat, the captain, and the winds. All are necessary. We're meant to develop love for Krishna. That may seem so far away, but the goal is steadily and gradually achieved by our daily decisions. Should I do this? Should I do that? No matter what ashram you're in, you have to make decisions about how to maneuver in this world, this Bhava Sindhu, this ocean of becoming and unbecoming. So if you're always thinking, what decision will be best for achieving the mission, for crossing over the ocean? If you always think like that, Krishna in your heart will take care of you. You'll be able to understand the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam more. You'll be able to hear from your spiritual master. If embedded in your heart is always the desire to consider what is the best option for my spiritual life, then you're ready for sailing across the ocean. And that kind of core sincerity will keep you from being capsized by the waves in such a dangerous ocean. And in fact, even if sometimes you do feel a bit overrun, overpowered by the waves, because you had that core sincerity, you'll become right again. So the best protection for accomplishing your weighty mission is to always have in your heart the thinking, the dedication. How can I act? How can I make a decision in a way that's best for my spiritual advancement? I have to discharge the mission. I have to cross the ocean. Keeping that foremost in your mind makes life simple. We've heard plain living or simple living and high thinking. If you want to live simply, then the high thinking has to be there. And what is the high thinking? Nothing material. The high thinking is what's best for Krishna's pleasure. Every once in a while, some devotees slipping write me that, okay, Gumraj, we can't follow any sadhana, but we are going to live a sattva guna life. We'll live a mode of goodness life. Uh, uh, I have to gently inform them that without the daily practices of sadhana bhakti, you will not be able to maintain yourself in sattva guna, in the mode of goodness. Not in this day and age. It sounds very possible, doesn't it? Okay, look, we're not the best devotees. We don't chant every day. We don't do this. We don't do that. But we're going to keep the house clean. We'll still be vegetarian. Uh, when you think like that, you're assuming that the modes of nature are just going to be static and not bother you, when actually it's just like your situation is just like being in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by huge waves. You may say, "Oh, I'll be steady," but the waves are going their own way. They're doing their own thing, regardless of what you may say. So it is not possible to just live a mode of goodness life, live simply without the high thinking. High thinking doesn't mean some material goal. High thinking means, let me complete the mission. Let me discharge the weighty responsibility. Let me cross the ocean. And then you have to know what's on the other side of the ocean. It's love of Krishna. We're not just about negating material existence or criticizing material existence. That's half the package, and it's necessary. But let's not forget the other half of the package. We're meant to be developing our attraction for Krishna. If you forget that, you'll be overwhelmed by the endless complexities and perplexities of the material world, and will certainly try to fulfill our loving propensity on the material platform. But our heart will never be satisfied without progressing toward love of Krishna. And we do that by following Krishna as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. For a beginning devotee or a devotee who just stays at the beginning stage, he or she just cares about his or her own spiritual life, which is something. But it's the third class devotee. Sometimes I wish, sometimes I would say, can we have more third class devotees? Because at least they're concerned with their own spiritual life. And they don't write me letters like, we don't have any sadhana, but we'll try to live a sattva-guna life. So third class devotees are necessary, but we should go to a higher level. What is that higher level? Majjham. You recognize that the more you give Krishna, the more you get Krishna. Of course, you have to have some Krishna in order to give. It's a great achievement to be a third class devotee, just to be concerned with his or her own spiritual development in a very ritualistic and selfish way. That's a great achievement. But Lord Chaitanya is calling us to a higher level so that we can get the full extent of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. Mahaprabhu wants to give away love of Krishna. All we have to do is become the servant of Sriman Gauranga Mahaprabhu. That's all we have to do. And by serving Gauranga Mahaprabhu, through that service to Gauranga, we develop attachment for Radha and Krishna. That's the secret. Otherwise, in this age of Kali, in the ocean of material existence, the Bhava Sindhu, it is practically impossible to approach Radha and Krishna directly. But if you approach them as a servant of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, then you'll be successful. Because Mahaprabhu wants to give it away. He wants to give away love of Krishna. But you simply need to focus on approaching him. And through him, your goals will be achieved, your highest spiritual goals. Yes, you can become a lover of Krishna. So we want our spiritual life to be progressive. For the sake of ourselves, for the sake of our family, for the sake of the world. Again and again, Srila Prabhupada said that we need hundreds and thousands of gurus. Representing Krishna is not one person's affair. Throughout the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, we have now about 100 persons doing the service of guru. But Prabhupada wanted hundreds and thousands. That means some of you who are thinking, oh, I could never do that, or I would never want to do that. The responsibility can come your way. Being or doing the service of Guru doesn't mean you have to travel the world like a sannyasi. When Lord Chaitanya orders, whomever you go, wherever you go, whomever you meet, the acharyas explain, you can take that that he's referring to just your family or just your neighborhood, or if you have the facility, the whole world. So there's no geographic consideration. It's all about doing what you can in your situation, doing as much as you can. If you can travel the world and go to every continent, okay. If you can simply reach out to your relatives, your neighborhood, okay. But Ama Agya Guru on my order, you do this. So everyone should take up this responsibility by becoming qualified. It's not just one person's mission or one person's service. Take up the means to become qualified. We want to be used by Krishna. That means be the servant of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, and through that service, through the Dasyaras, the servitude to Gauranga Mahaprabhu, even the Madhurya Bhakti to Radha and Krishna becomes revealed. So we have so much to do. We have so much to hear about, chant about, and so much service to be done. In the coming year, let's be more conscientious of the opportunity we have. The pandemic and its restrictions have caused us to realize we could be doing more. We could be doing better. We shouldn't take our situation for granted. So, to the extent that the world circumstances allow, let's get off the mental and rededicate ourselves to Srila Prabhupada's mission, Lord Chaitanya's mission, Krishna's mission. And then our life will be successful. For as long as we stay in the particular body we have now, let's remember what is our weighty mission that the human body gives us, and not become overwhelmed by the endless complexities. In some parts of the world, there's this problem. In another part of the world, there's not that problem. And then it reverses. 10 or 20 years later, the part of the world that thought it was problem-free becomes drowning in problems. And the other part of the world that was drowning in problems thinks, oh, things are better now. It just goes on and on and on. Things that people consider routine in one part of the world are considered hellish in another part of the world. Just like when you hear about calamities and crises in other parts of the world, refugees, persons in New Zealand, for example, will think, oh, how horrible. How can people live in those circumstances? And then, as I pointed out a short time ago in one class, when people in other parts of the world hear about the earth shaking in New Zealand, hear about the tremors, they think, oh, how horrible. How could they live there? But the Kiwis all know, another day, another tremor. What's the big deal? But as I was explaining in class, whenever there's an earth tremor here, My relatives in the USA hear about it on the world news, and they're calling up, or they're trying to call. Are you all right? Are you all right? Whereas the New Zealanders, they all know, another day, another earth tremor. What's the big deal? So what is considered so monumental in one part of the world, in another part of the world, is considered just part of daily life. I can remember now, during the term of your current prime minister in New Zealand, twice while she was giving a press conference, the building started to shake. Twice. But New Zealanders say, oh, man, it happens. These are the shaky isles. Life goes on. Whereas other parts of the world, they're freaking out. Oh, my God, I saw that on the news. Your prime minister was giving a talk and the building was shaking. Are you okay down there? Are you okay? Be convinced that Maya is at work everywhere. The three modes of material nature are working everywhere. And there's adhyatmic, adibhotic, and adidaivic miseries. The threefold miseries are everywhere. It just seems like, well, at this time, and this place is good and that place is problematic. And then it reverses. And or everywhere becomes problematic. The best solution is to get out of the ocean of material existence. That's our mission. Whatever good facilities you have, beginning with your own human body, or your living situation, if it's a good situation, be grateful for it and use it for completing your mission. As Prabhupada would often say, we're not against people living comfortably, but don't forget your mission. What is your main mission in life? I've told you before the story about how one godbrother and I, Burijan Prabhu, were invited to a housewarming. A family had just moved into a new house, and they, of course, invited devotees over for prasad, and they invited a priest devotee to do a yajna to consecrate the new home. It was all part of household life. It's all right. And so Burijan Prabhu and I were sitting together, and we were both supposed to speak. So I was wondering, well, I said, you're a householder. I'm a sannyasi. I mean, what am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to just say, Dukalayam Shastratam, this material world's a temporary, miserable place? That would be kind of a downer at someone's, housewarming celebration. Newlywed couple moving into their new home. And then Swami Maharaj reminds them, Anitya Masukam Lokam, it's a temporary, miserable world. We want to forget that. So we were discussing, Burijan Prabhu and I. He's a householder. He's got children, a wife. So it wasn't a complex situation for him. But here I am, the Swami, how do I be encouraging and at the same time speak the reality? So we discussed, and then Burijan Prabhu came up with a solution. He said, okay, here's your speech. Tell them, be as happy as you can be in a world where there's no happiness. So in that way, I covered all the points. I was encouraging, be as happy as you can be in a world where there's no happiness. And I was also addressing the reality. Everything is clear when we understand what is our mission: to cross the ocean. I've been on every habitable continent of this world, and I've seen so many permutations, complications, mm, complexities, perplexities. They just go on and on. Mm. The safest position in the material world is chanting Hare Krishna. You can do your best to take care of your body and your family in the best way. But what's the purpose of all that? What's the purpose of the perfectly constructed boat, the human body? The purpose is to cross over the ocean. And crossing over the ocean means developing love of Krishna, becoming more attracted to Krishna, his name, form, qualities, and pastimes. If you forget that, then what's the use? You have to give Krishna quality time. Just like a spouse complains, you're not you're not giving me enough quality time. You're not talking to me enough. I always remember Gulin Yatra telling me when his wife Rasa Yatra was during her teenage years was zeroing in on him. Her line was to get him to pay more attention to her was, "You're not talking to me enough." So, that pulled him up straight real quick. He realized, oh, we've got a serious possibility here. I should be more focused. Krishna is the supreme person, Purushottam. And so through the books, through the spiritual master, Krishna tells you, you're not hearing from me enough. Where's the quality time? You're not using your senses to satisfy my senses enough. So I thank you all for your words of appreciation. I'm constantly praying to Srila Prabhupada that I can do better for you. And please always consider me as the servant of Srila Prabhupada. And my hope is to inspire you to cross the ocean of material existence and develop love for Krishna. Let us not be selfish. All of you, because Srila Prabhupada said that to us, his disciples, all of you I want become spiritual masters and deliver the world. Whether it's just your relatives, just your neighborhood, or every continent, that we will see. But all of you become qualified. And then you'll see Mahaprabhu's mission increase more and more. What seems impossible now will become revealed as more and more possible. I remember one last point, Srila Prabhupada in Mayapur. When the Mayapur project began with just a handful of devotees. And then by 1973 or 1974, the Mayapur project increased to 20 devotees. And what was Prabhupada telling the devotees who they couldn't understand it? He said, 25,000 devotees here one day. There are just 10 or 20 devotees in the Mayapur project. Now there are 7,000 devotees in the Mayapur project. Even that, it's not 25,000, but even 7,000 would seem so inconceivable, a chincha to devotees back in the early 70s. There were so few devotees in Mayapur, and no one wanted to stay. When the first Mayapur festival happened in 1973 or so, 73 or 74, a few hundred eager devotees came from the West, eager to see India. And then, of course, after a few weeks, they left. So this went on for a few years. No potential manpower or lady power was staying in Mayapur. At best, everyone would just come for a festival and then disappear, go to Vrindavan and back to Europe or America. So during the festival, there would be a few hundred devotees there. And then the day the festival ended, down to 20 devotees. So one of the leaders went to Srila Prabhupada and said, what can we do? No one wants to stay. There's just 10 or 20 of us. So at that time, the devotees had moved on from Mayapur to Vrindavan for the rest of the festival. We would do 2 weeks festival in Mayapur and then 2 weeks in Vrindavan, and then go back to the other parts of the world from where we originated. So Prabhupada told this leader, all right, all the devotees have left Mayapur, they've gone to Vrindavan, and then from there they'll go back to the West. Go to Vrindavan and just take whoever you can, bring them to Mayapur. Because the leader was complaining, the temple presidents in the West won't give any manpower. They say we can't touch anyone. Everyone's needed. So Prabhupada told this leader, okay, go to Vrindavan and just recruit. But he said, one thing, remember, don't touch any of my book distributors. So the leader did that. How did he do it? He went to Vrindavan, and in the middle of the night with a torch, with a flashlight, he went through the ashrams, waking devotees up and saying, let's go to Mayapur. Come on, pack up. Let's go. In the middle of the night while everyone is sleeping. So, and none of the temple presidents could object. So he recruited about 10 or 20 devotees in the middle of the night, took them away in the middle of the night with the blessings and permission of Srila Prabhupada, who only gave one stipulation: don't touch my book distributors. So these are some of the glories of Mahaprabhu's mission. And I thank you all for your assistance and your service. I'm grateful. And I pray to Srila Prabhupada that I can do more for you. Hare Krishna.
Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma. Bandamui Savadana Mate. Bandamui Savadana Mate. Jahada prasade pai e bhavatori ajai. Krishna prapti hoi ja haite. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chite Te Koriya Aikya. Guru Mukha Vakya Koriya Aikya. Anakori Homane Asha. Shegara Charanirate Ase Utama Gate. Shegara Jai Prasade Pure Savasha. Oh, Chaco Dilo Jai Jami Jami Prabhu say. Chakudan Dilo Jai Jami Jami Prabhu say. Divya Gan Hriday Prakashito. Divya Gan Hriday Prakashito. Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasha Jate. Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasha Jate. Vedega Jahara Charito. Vedega Jahara Charito. Shigoro Karuna Sindhu Adama Jenara Panu. Shigoro Karuna Sindhu Adama Jenara Panu. Lokanata Lokera Jivana. Lokanata Lokera Jivana. Ah, Prabhu Koro Doya Dehomore Padachaya. Aha, Prabhu Koro Doya Dehomore Padachaya. Aha Prabhu Koro Doya Deho More Padachaya. Aha Prabhu Koro Doya Deho More Padachaya. Ebe Jacha Koshak Chebovana. Ebe Jacha Koshak Chebovana. Chela Gurudev Patita Pavana. Jaya Gurudev Patita Pavana. Jaya Gurudeva, 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 Jaya Gurudeva. Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva. Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. His Holiness Devamrita Swami Ki.
Jai Om Vishnu Bhavam Subhadaraja Jaya Astatera Satasisi Mad
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Devamrita Swaminiti Namine. Pachare Purvadaksham Cha Bhakta Chada Pavinata Paratapi Karunyam Yasya Savechate Namaha Prachare Purvadaksham Cha Bhakta Chada Pavinata Paratapi Karunyam Yasya Savechate Namaha. His Holiness Devamrita Swami Ki.
Jai Om Vishnu Bhavam Subhadaraja Jaya Astatera Satasisi Mad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jai Om Vishnu Bhavam Subhadaraja Jaya Stotera Satasisi Mad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda Ki. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktabind Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopagopina Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Navadip Dham Ki Ganga Mai Ki Yamuna Mai Ki Tulasi Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Gaur Premanande. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Sisi Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, for being personally present here during this celebration. And I just want to say thanks to all the devotees around the world for joining us today.
Yes, I know some of them are really up at special hours. Anna from Hungary, I know, is up at a very special hour. And it's so nice that I get to see some of you. Not everyone who's around the world, but we're thankful for those who are able to tune in. And again, I thank you for your words of appreciation. It's my pleasure, not only my duty, but my pleasure to offer these words of appreciation up through the parampara. And that way I can be of real value to you. So please continue to think how you can discharge the weighty mission of the human form of life. Complexities, perplexities, intricacies in this world will always be there. It's just that at different parts of the world, people become aware at different times of the ongoing realities. Mm. But what is the ultimate reality? Taking shelter of chanting Hare Krishna and engaging in Krishna's service in the association of devotees. Without the association of sincere devotees, a sincere devotee means one whose number one priority is engaging in Krishna's service. Without that association, it's so easy to get lost in the material world, to drown in the ocean, even though we may have good intentions. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that without the association of dedicated devotees, we gradually lose the ability to discriminate between material and spiritual activities. It all becomes a merge. And everything starts to look like, oh, it's all for Krishna. Everything is Krishna. And meanwhile, the illusory energy starts to saturate your life. So we always want to be in the association of dedicated devotees as a priority, not as an accessory. Oh, by the way, I need some association. No, this is a mainstay. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur has instructed us, Andarat Trana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas, Janame Janame Hoy E Abhilas. Birth after birth. I don't mind as long as I have the association of dedicated devotees. In such association, anything can be tolerated. And this world is a place of toleration. You'll find that out sooner or later if you haven't already. No one is exempt, not even New Zealand. Let us cling tightly to Srila Prabhupada's mission and think how to expand it. Let's accelerate off the mental platform and into some transcendental, inconceivable service. According to our capacity, according to our style of the ashram we're in. So again, I thank you for your words of appreciation. I wish to do more for you. And for as much more time as Krishna allows me to stay in this body, in this world, I'll try my best. But remember, everyone, all devotees are given the mission that wherever they go, whomever they meet, teach the science of Krishna. On the order of Mahaprabhu, become a guru and deliver the population, whether it's just your family, just your relatives, just your neighborhood, or the whole world. Take that mission of Mahaprabhu to heart, become qualified, and execute. So thank you very much. I'll take your leave now. Hare Krishna.